What's up, real MVPs? Ricky Widmer here, and welcome into another edition of MVP Sports Live. I am joined, like I always am, to my left by my beautiful co-host, Dave Oster.
Beautiful, eh?
I mean, yeah, we're all beautiful
Dashing.
people here, right? I mean, Philip DeFranco tells me I'm a beautiful bastard every day.
That's true.
That's
very true.
You got to start believing it, Dave. Can't stop, won't stop. And we got a jam-packed
Fake it
show.
till you make it.
What? Fake it till you make it?
Fake it till you make it.
That's exactly what you got to do.
Living the dream.
Been trying it for 8 years, but we're back for another edition of MVP Sports Live. If you don't know who we are, we talk about sports each and every day. We're live on Twitch right now, twitch.tv/most valuable podcast. Nope, I keep getting that wrong. We changed it. It's twitch.tv/MVP vids. Maybe by next week I'll get it right. I fucked that up on Games Daily too, but you can catch the show each and every day on Twitch at 4:30 Central Time. It also goes on YouTube right after we record. Next day by the latest, but usually the evening of it will be live on YouTube. We got a jam-packed show, Dave. Before we get to housekeeping, though, I got to bring something up because our good friend, one of the boys in our Discord, Sean Anderson. I love that Sean's watching. Sean, we miss you. And like I said in our text chat, you are always welcome on this show whenever you want to come on. He's a dear friend of mine. He's a dear friend of mine, Skip. But he was saying that you do look 16 with your hair like you had it yesterday. Go check out yesterday's episode if you want to see Dave look like a 16-year-old. But you brought up an interesting point in the text chat that I wanted to bring to light now, and I really want to see you, like, how you want to see me bald with a beard.
I really do.
I want to see you with the what you brought up in the text chat, and I will let you introduce it since it's kind of your brainchild. You brought it up.
Look, I've got longer hair now, so I feel like I've got all these options available to me. It became this thing of like, well, do I put some product in there? Do I go for like the straight up like cone? Do I go for like a mohawk?
What was it, like the 80s, 90s look where you just got the fucking straight up hair?
What is it? Street Fighter. The one character from Street Fighter's haircut, where it's just literally just. But yeah, we were just kind of joking around with different ideas I could do with my hair. We brought the man bun yesterday. But then I was like, well, I mean, like, I get like a bandana, or I could go like FIFA style and just wear the little hairband.
Oh, are you talking about Guile?
Yeah.
You're talking about Guile's character with the hair, the blonde hair that's kind of like the little box on top of his head.
Yes, I go straight up Guile. Yep. I could do it. I got the volume. I'm getting close to the volume. But yeah. So, no, we were joking around. But yeah, the FIFA hairband was kind of, maybe next week we'll get to FIFA hairband range. Actually, no, I'm out. I'm on vacation next week. So in 2 weeks, you might get hairband Dave. I
would love to see it. Sean says he doesn't think it's long enough. I think it is long enough. I think you could just push it back with the hair, like, it's got to be the thin headband, though. I don't think you go with, like, you're not going to go with the thick headband that we see, like, girls wear and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, we got a jam-packed show today. Before we get into everything, a little bit of housekeeping here at the beginning. Not many items, but we got some items. The first one I didn't mention on Sports Live, but I mentioned on Games Live, is eventually these will be on podcast services. You got to stick with us until I got to get the okay from Spotify and iTunes and everything.
Let's take some time.
So once they're set up, they'll be live on podcast services. You'll get this in video form, and if you want it in audio form, you will get that also. And I think that's it for housekeeping. Yesterday we had the thing that we're talking today. The only other housekeeping thing is if you're watching on YouTube, you can catch it live on Twitch, and if you're on Twitch and you miss it, you can catch it on YouTube. But that's pretty much the easy housekeeping, and we're going to get right into the show then. And what we're talking about, I should say, to start the show is something I talked about yesterday in the housekeeping for the episode, is that there's some drama going on with TCU football and Gary Patterson. ESPN had an article where it said TCU head coach Gary Patterson apologized for repeating racial slur. And when you read that, you're thinking, what the fuck did he say? Like, what did he say? And here's the context I'm going to give is I'm actually going to read a note that was posted by TCU player Dylan Jordan, because he was the main player that was at the center of this. Like, I kind of want to say drama, but it's not really like it's drama, but it's not really like saying drama makes me feel like I'm like pushing it to a side.
Yeah. I say
it's really serious. But here's what he wrote in at
the center of this issue.
Yeah, in a note that he put on Twitter. He said, "In a year's time at TCU, I've met a lot of people and have really fell in love with the location and atmosphere here. As a student athlete, you go through and do many things others don't. You learn a lot of things like sacrifice. On the football side of things, life has been really rocky since arriving at TCU. I was promised early playing time during recruitment, which never happened. I've asked why I can't get on the field, even suggesting moving positions never happened. This past Sunday was our third practice of fall camp. Coach Patterson called me out for posting my girlfriend on National Girlfriend Day in front of the defense. As practice moved on, he approached me and told me you should have just asked and I told him you should have just asked me about it. He then said, 'You're an effing brat. I'll send you back to Pitt.' I said, 'For what? I ain't did nothing.' He followed with, 'You've been saying the N-word in the meeting room. This morning, I showed up for practice and multiple players approached me and asked me if it was true. I told them yes and how everything happened. We refused to go to practice this morning," this was Monday, "and he came to the locker room and said I wasn't calling him a N-word. This behavior is not okay now or ever, and there needs to be repercussions to these actions." We're going to get into a lot of it. I've got thoughts, and obviously looking at the replies, they're all mixed on Twitter because they always are, and I want to get into some of those too, not read them, but kind of like where people are coming from. Dave, the thing I want to ask you is, I kind of want to say not should he be punished, not should Gary Patterson be punished, but what type of punishment should Gary Patterson receive? Because I feel like he should be punished at some way for these actions that he showed.
Yeah, I mean, clearly he's in the wrong. There's no doubt in that. It just comes down to the question of what was the context, if he claims he wasn't using it against him in conversation or anything like that. It's like, what context was it being used where he thought, any of this would be okay?
Yeah.
Is this a situation where he needs to take time away from the team as a coach? Is this a situation where he needs to do some sort of community service, kind of give back to the community and start to gain a better appreciation? Like, when you see when you see athletes, professional athletes, make ignorant comments, either against smaller communities, whether it's the LGBTQ community, anything in that general area of like just shit is just wrong, and they're repeating it. Like, you see people turn around and go ahead and spend some time with that community and learn to gain the correct appreciation for them, help give back, and help grow awareness for anything going on in that community. So I think that might be a situation that, would make sense in my mind. And it's something we've seen done before. Usually it's not forced on them, but I think in this case, time away from the team, clearly, because as a coach, if you've lost your team, like, I'm sorry, that you're not going to get it back quickly. I understand conversations between coaches and athletes are very different. The locker room talk shit we hear about often, but going way back, like, I can recall my coach in high school swearing lots. I mean, it was one of those situations where it's just, that was That was what it was.
Each coach has their own style. Yeah.
True. But like in general, like their job is to scream at you to get you to do the right thing. And like, I understand it gets heated. The thing I want to kind of question here is the whole, like, why is he bringing up his playing time and his situation there? And then the second situation, it's a question of like, is he saying that there's like a deep-seated racism in the head coach where he's not getting playing time because of the color of his skin? Is that what he's inferring? Because that's one of the questions I would have as a follow-up. I would ask, I don't know their team layout. I don't know the situation within their team as far as, who's starting, who's not, what race is everyone. Like, I'm not digging deep into this situation because I don't think it warrants it yet, but it's one of those, like, coach did something clearly wrong, needs to be punished for it, needs to make up for it. And if the team and the school will have him stay there is up to them. But like, I almost wonder, like, is this the start of a thread? So that will lead to more information coming out about him in the past or current situations where he's not been treating people equally.
And you bring up a point of where when I immediately jumped into the replies of Twitter, and sometimes with a conversation like this, that's not the best thing to do because Twitter can be YouTube comment sections are usually not the best place for information. And you look at the replies here and like any other one, they're mixed. You have ones from people that are like 17 years I've hoped and worked for players that can speak out, and it's great that you're speaking out and you can be heard. There's other people, like I'm just going to read this one from at Ost10 Duke. Wait, I'm confused. He was calling you out for saying the N-word in meetings, as in he doesn't want that kind of language in the facility? Or what? I'm not understanding you've been saying blank in meetings. And to me, when I see this, that first part, you're right, confused. Like, it first confused me, but then I wonder, and there was another reply that's like, yo, bro, I would take this down. It doesn't make you look good. He's like, the guy threw the joke of, I would have had your girlfriend proofread this before you put it out on Twitter because it's just all jumbled. Because, like you mentioned, why is he bringing up the playing time and then going into the issue? Is he trying to tell us, like you said, that, like, is he inferring that Coach Patterson is racist? Or, like I brought it, is he trying to, what's the word I'm thinking of? Kind of preface or get in our head of, all right, before I get into what the issue is, let me get them the bad image of Coach Patterson, that he's dishonest. That's like what I thought is like, oh, let me put him as a dishonest guy so it looks better.
Yeah, right off the bat.
But with that being, that's a side issue. Like getting like we know coaches lie in recruiting all the time to get the best player to come to their team or get a skilled player to come to their team. That's not new, and that's a side conversation. The main one for me is just this all came down to communication, where first off, if Coach Patterson actually said the N-word, because how he has it worded is that the first time Coach Patterson said it, he said it like the exact same way Dylan was saying it. So the way he had it typed was with a GA. Then the second time when he was like, well, hey, I didn't call him this, that's when he had it with the hard R. But for me, it's communication here should be the thing. Where the issue of, hey, don't, like, Coach Patterson shouldn't have said, hey, you've been saying this and actually said it. There should have been a conversation where Coach Patterson pulls him aside, not on the practice field, because they were already heated in a back and forth about, oh, I'll send your ass back to Pitt, why I haven't done nothing. So they were already heated. But, like, if Coach Patterson was really upset about that, he should have pulled him aside in the meeting room and said, hey, like, I know that you might use this language outside with your friends, but in the facility, in the team meeting rooms, I don't want that to be the case. Like, that could have been easily squashed. Okay, cool. Player and coach understand each other. You can move forward. And the fact that he tried to then basically help himself by saying, well, I didn't call him this, by basically saying the word, doesn't help him. So, like, I don't know if firing is the issue. Like, that was my first thought of, like, should he be fired? Because that's what everyone thinks. But I do think a suspension is in order. Because the part of me that doesn't sit right is the part in between the lying about playing time and the racial stuff. Because the racial stuff is the bad stuff. That could have been fixed with communication. Like, better communication.
Right.
It's what's in between. It's like, first off, why does it fucking matter if he posted his girlfriend? I'm assuming on Twitter. Why does it fucking matter that he did that on Twitter on National Girlfriend Day? Why are you doing it in front of the defense? Like, in practice, they are two things that have nothing to do with one another. And then you threaten a player with, I'll send your ass back to Pitt. Like, that to me is the something of like, okay, I want to get in and see what is this culture really about, because there might be something fishy with this culture at TCU.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think there's potentially more going on than what we are hearing right now. And I think it just turns into a big question about, I have to wonder if there's anything else going on. Have any other coaches made statements? Has anybody else spoken up? Any other players? Because I tried looking to see if there's anything in the past from like TCU. No, nothing really came out. So it's just it's a bad situation right now. But yeah, with the context that we were given from, I forget the player's name.
Dylan Jordan.
Dylan Jordan. It seems like there might be something else going on here behind closed doors. So I mean, they've got time to sort it out, do it. I mean, do we know if they went back to practice on Wednesday or?
Let me see.
I haven't seen any more national news level reporting on it. That's the only reason I ask.
So I'm scrolling through his Twitter, and basically he's retweeting obviously the good stuff from the comments or the replies, because naturally that's what you're gonna do. But I have not seen anything about them going back to practice. And it's like, if it's me, if I'm upset with the situation, why go back to practice? Why only sit out one day?
Yeah. And Pat in the comment section in Twitch, I think he's in the same line with us. He wants to see Patterson suspended, make donations to institutes that fight racial inequality. He needs to meet with professors who study race and understand how language is harmful to his players. I agree. I mean, it's one of those situations where, like you said, it all leads from poor communication up front, but you have to wonder, is there something else going on with him that, he has racist tendencies or is racist, and that's a longer thing you have to unwind. But one way or another, I do think that as a school and as a program, they do need to get to the bottom of this quickly. And
I mean, the last thing I'll say is just something to reiterate a point that you said is something like this can divide a team and turn players against the coach. And like you said, TCU, if this snowballs, might be in a situation where the section of the team is so much against the coach that they might have no other choice but to move on. But I think suspension should be in order. He should be suspended, like both you and Pat said. We're going to move on, though, kind of pivot with this discussion and go from the college ranks to the WNBA. First WNBA topic that we're going to have on the show, and it's a crying shame that it has to be this kind of a topic. But WNBA players before one of their games, I think it was yesterday, wore shirts, and some of them had the Black Lives Matter shirt, but some of them had shirts that said "Vote Warnock." And some people might be saying, well, what does that mean? I thought the same thing when I saw the shirt. What's Vote Warnock? And this goes back to Kelly Loeffler, who's a U.S. Senator from Georgia, Republican. She owns the Atlanta Dream, or she's a co-owner of the Atlanta Dream. Last month, she wrote a letter to WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelbert, objectifying to the league's promotion of Black Lives Matter, which is painted on the courts at IGM Academy in Florida, just like the NBA is doing. Yeah. And it's advocating instead that teams add American flags to their jerseys. So basically the players on her own team are now speaking out that are like, fuck you, you should lose your Senate seat. And the question that I wanted to propose is, should she be forced to sell her stake in the Atlanta Dream, a la what we saw with Sterling and the Clippers, where it's not the exact same thing, but it's close because it's related to race. Sterling was forced to sell the team. Should she be the same? I'm going to start with this one by saying, yes, I think she, like, there's a part of me, a small part of me, that was like, maybe like seeing the other side of like, well, she didn't say anything. She didn't say anything like ignorantly racist. So like, just for having an opinion. Yeah. Like she's tone deaf. She's wrong.
That's the nicest thing you can say.
Like,
tone deaf.
Is she right?
I don't believe it's just that.
Yeah. Is she right? No. But it's not like she's like, I don't even want to say like, oh, she's not promoting hate speech, because she kind of is by just pushing the movement off to the side. But there was a small part of me that was like, well, for having an opinion, do you really be forced to sell the team? But the reason why I say yes is because of the fact of, okay, you're a co-owner of this team. So basically you're the boss of this team. And your employees, who are the players, your players are your employees, you pay them to play the basketball games and win you games. Just by looking, this was from May 13th of 2020, on labor.org, wrote a piece about demographics in the WNBA. And they say here, notably 100% of WNBA PA members are female. 83% of members are persons of color. And 67% are Black or African American. So for me, I'm looking at it this way. You're the boss of this team. The majority of your players are either women of color or Black and African American. If you have that thought, you should not own this team, because your mindset, your view is not in the best interest of your employees. So yes, I think she should be forced to sell her share in the Atlanta Dream.
Yeah. It's hard to kind of quantify like how tone deaf that is as a statement to make publicly, but you nailed it. As an owner of the team, as someone who your job is you represent the team everywhere you go as the owner. You have to look out for the people who work for you. You have to look out for everyone on the team, staff, organization. That is your job, is to best represent them. And if you don't understand the cause that everyone is rallying behind, who sees racial injustice happening in the world day in, day out, and you think this needs to be, something where you don't want to support that, and then on top of that, basically throwing, spitting back at them is just, oh, we should have flags on. Like, it hurts to think about, like, how did you get to a point where you think this is A, logical, B, like, if you say this out loud, what kind of who are your peers who, you think that's an okay thing to say? Because you are so out of touch, out of context, out of everything with what's happening in reality in the United States right now. And I think that's all of that stuff 100% goes into the fact that, yes, she should not own any part of this team. She should not be. People with a racist viewpoint should not have a chance to be part of something that is trying to strive towards equality. If they're doing everything right in the WNBA as far as we're going to support the cause. We're going to let players, same with the NBA. It's like, we're going to let players kneel. If they want to kneel, we're going to let them wear messages to support whatever statement they want to. They want people to be spoken out. They want people to share experiences. Like, the whole thing behind this movement is just getting people talking and going towards that better goal. And she's not helping. She's trying to either stop that conversation from happening or something else behind it. And I understand that obviously there's a political line in America. And Pat, again, thank you, Pat and Sam, for the discussion in Twitch right now, because sports do have the label of political slapped on them because people in politics use sports and they point at sports. Today alone, we saw President of the United States talk about how he was disgusted by players kneeling. It's like, this has nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
They're not kneeling. Like, this is nothing to do with you. And you are putting the wrong context around why they are kneeling. This is just you trying to continue to forward your own political movement. And I think that's what she's trying to do, is she's just trying to make statements that send a certain message out to certain people.
Yeah. And I mean, the thing that, like you mentioned, you said spitting in their face when you brought up we should put the flag on the jersey. And I can't agree with you more than there, because that's exactly how I was thinking, because I can't remember where I heard it, whether it was like CNN, and they were interviewing a Black Lives Matter activist, either on like CNN, the local news somewhere. But they basically said the message of the way that you see, and by you, they're talking about, Caucasians, white Americans, the way you see the flag is not the same way I see the flag. Right. Because everyone's had their own viewpoint. They've had struggles that we haven't had.
Yeah, different experiences.
As to white males. And I feel like by suggesting that, to say, let's put an American flag on that jersey. So what, you want your players during the national anthem, while they're kneeling, looking at the other jersey, or looking at the jersey and having to stare at that and be and have that be almost like a slap in the face to them? Yeah. Of that's what my league thinks of me. That's what my owner thinks of me. And that's why I go to the point where you don't have the best interest of the majority of your players in mind. And if that's the fact, you should not own a WNBA team, because as an owner, your interest should be all in on the team. Should be all in on that team, whether it's success, health of the players, health of not even the players, even coaches, staff, everyone that goes into what the team is and the day-to-day operations, to where I feel like you said, she's tone deaf, she's misguided, and she's not the best owner that the Dream, or co-owner that the Dream could have. Because look at the Clippers. Donald Sterling was there. They were losing. Fucking Steve Ballmer comes in and actually is I'm going to pay attention to what's going on the floor and not worry about stuff off the floor. And look, the Clippers are winning again.
I don't even draw that line. I understand that that's what, I don't know if the ownership change had anything to do with them getting better at basketball, getting better players in there. But I do know that, again, it's just, you have the wrong people in positions of power, and the world gets better when they're not in power. Put it that way.
Well, we're going to move on. We're going to shift from the WNBA into the NBA, and we're going to start our NBA discussion like we always do, with a recurring segment here on MVP Sports Live, and that is Wet Boys, the dampest of dudes, the soggiest of shooters, the moistest of men. Dave, I almost came up with one for H, but I still didn't think it sit right. The humid hitters, but then I'm that just doesn't sound right. That's the only word I could think of that started with H. But then I was thinking, I'm you know what? Dampest of dudes, soggiest of shooters, moist of men. Dudes and men, they relate to other sports.
Exactly.
Now that we're throwing it out to everything, though, we gotta be inclusive. We gotta throw one in there for the WNBA because it's not just men that can win this award now. But we've got 3 wet boys. Dave's gonna give his. I'm gonna give mine. The patrons who voted at patreon.com/mostwild podcast, where you can vote for your wet boy each and every day. Go check out patreon.com/MVP-vids. Dave, take it away with your wet boy for this fine hump day.
You know, this one was an easy one because yesterday, as we were recording this very show, my wet boy went out there and knocked down a game winner.
And he sparked a meme on Twitter.
In an epic action, Zubac tipping the ball out to him. Horrible job just turning the ball over with a second left in the game. And Devin Booker, just clutch of clutch, man. I mean, he knocked down a shot over PG, over Kawhi, over the entirety of the Clippers team. It doesn't even matter who's guarding him. He nailed it. And it was a fall away shot. And then just him laying there on the ground, he was like, I just did it. That just happened. Like, he was excellent. And I want to give credit to him for it. The Suns team, while they are not at the top of the Western Conference, they are fun to watch. And I do think they have a lot of reasons to be hopeful, even if they don't make the playoff bubble cut line. I think next year they're primed for a really fun run. So
my favorite meme with him laying on the ground like with his head up is the one where the top picture is like the Netflix "Are you still watching?" and then him underneath, and it's just when you realize the remote's halfway across the room. I was like, that's perfect because I feel that all the time. Like Devin Booker was an easy one. I'm going to be honest, our patrons. So I was going to go with somebody because he did something yesterday that was completely redonkulous. But luckily our patrons stepped in. They voted for him. So I didn't have to go that way. You'll see who it is later. But my wet boy, I'm going away from the NBA yet again, Dave.
You're allowed to, man. Because I appreciate you keeping the section fair.
So I'm going back to baseball. And the reason why this guy gets the award is we're going to go to a small town. I think it's a small town. Not really. But a small baseball town. They don't win much. They have a movie about them, though. We're going to Oakland, Dave. We are in the Coliseum. It's a 1-1 game between the Rangers and the Athletics. And my boy, he used to not be my boy because he was on the Cardinals and fuck the Cardinals. I hope that Yadier Molina and all the Cardinals with COVID get better, obviously. But fuck the Cardinals because I'm a Cubs fan. But this player comes up, 1-1 game, bases loaded. All he needs is a base hit to win the game. It's the bottom of the 9th.
Yeah.
But what does he do? First pitch swinging, Stephen Piscotty. Walk-off grand slam. The second walk-off grand slam that the A's have had this year. Had to do it. You hit a walk-off grand slam. I think you deserve a wet boy. Like so I had 3 in nomination. 1 is a patron wet boy.
Hang on 1 second.
Yeah.
So with Piscotty, I mean, you say Oakland Athletics, I just think of the one line. It's a metaphor. I love that movie.
It's a metaphor. It's always a metaphor. But Stephen Piscotty actually stole my wet boy away from somebody.
Yeah.
Because at first I was like, I'm going to keep it NBA. But I'm like, you know what? Our patrons are probably going to vote for that guy. And they did. I was originally going to give it to Austin Meadows. Because Austin Meadows had COVID, missed 10 games of the season, came back yesterday, and had 2 hits in his first game back from COVID. So I was going to give it to him for that. But then I saw the walk-off grand slam, and I'm like, it's a fucking walk-off grand slam.
You can't top that.
You can't not give him a wet boy for a walk-off grand slam.
Yeah.
But our patron wet boy, Dave, you'll like this one. You'll be happy with this one. Luka Doncic. Oh, it didn't switch. Why did it not switch? Here, I'm going to switch it right now, Dave.
It's from Van Vliet from his performance on Monday.
So I think it didn't switch because... Okay, I don't know why it didn't switch. That shouldn't be. Their wet boy is Luka Doncic. Luka Doncic is a wet boy for his triple-double yesterday.
He did a 30-20-10 triple-double. Yeah, specific to it was like 34-20.
20 fucking rebounds. 20 fucking rebounds. When I saw that typing the wet boys thing, I went, wait, what?
Yeah,
20 rebounds?
I saw Luka's performance, and I watched most of that game.
Mm-hmm.
But at some point, like, the numbers of the offense don't even make, like, he's hitting the Harden levels of just, like, these numbers are so dumb, they don't even, like, I don't process them anymore. I love the man. I still, like, going back and rewatching old draft takes from that, Ricky, he's going to be another Mario Hezonja.
I said he could be. I said he could be.
No, I mean, going back and rewatching draft takes is one of my funniest things. Like, it's one of my favorite. Just entertainment value.
I mean, there was a part of me too, like, it was good that I was on the other side, right? Because it created some good content.
Yeah.
Even though I was dead wrong.
It's insulting to think of all the teams that passed him up. Like, you look at the Kings right now, where they are looking to burn it down as an organization. They have one of the worst head coaches in the sport. They've got awful ownership. They've done awful drafts.
Should have taken them.
They're struggling in the bubble. But Luka Doncic is thriving. And he and KP
today?
I don't even care if they're winning.
I was like, weren't the Kings winning today, or was that someone else? Go ahead, I cut you off.
No, I mean, let me scroll up now. Kings
they're not playing today. Was it yesterday? Yeah, didn't they play yesterday? Now I'm gonna look to. Yeah, okay. They lost to the Mavericks, but they were beating the Mavericks at some point.
They were up by a chunk, which is impressive because, like, anytime the Mavericks are in the fourth quarter, I just assume they're going to give the game away because they run out of energy by the fourth quarter. Like, well, shit, we came up short again. We scored 120, gave 124, kind of a thing. Like, that's their jam. So I love the Mavs. Couldn't have done it better, patrons. Love the votes.
Well, that's going to do it for Wet Boys. Like I said, each and every day, you guys can pick your Wet Boys, patreon.com/podcast, the silver membership or above. But Dave, it's time to get into the NBA news. We're doing it a little bit earlier in the show than usual because I wanted to switch things up and keep the viewers off their toes. And just like we did on Monday, we are starting off with some somber news when it comes to the NBA. Another season-ending injury for another forward in the league. This one, Jaren Jackson Jr. Woj tweeted out last night, Memphis forward Jaren Jackson Jr. suffered a meniscus tear in his left knee and will miss the rest of the season. Woj then tweeted after that, brutal blow for Jackson Jr., one of the best young forwards in the NBA. Suddenly the fight for the 8th seed in the West becomes even greater for Memphis. Dave, thoughts on the injury for Jaren Jackson Jr.?
Yeah, so I want to start this off by, again, just I wish Jaren Jackson Jr. the best in his recovery. I know it's got to be incredibly frustrating to come off of an injury and then get injured again in this manner, worse this time around. That's tough. And one of the things going into this bubble that had been talked about by some NBA staff was the fact that there is going to be an increase in soft tissue, hamstring, anything with the ACLs, MCLs. All of those things amplify the injury percentages because these players are now going from 0 to 100 in such a short time span with all the time off that we would see an increase in the amount of injuries. And it was like, all right, well, how much? And this is a brutal restart to the season. Like that, we've lost a lot of players who I enjoy watching. I'm sure you guys do too. Specifically for the Memphis Grizzlies, this is just a kick in the dick. Like, this is, you already lost Justice Winslow coming back. Like, he was so excited. I mean, if you want to have your heart broken, go watch his interview from the day before he got injured. He's howling at the interview, like into the mic, because he's so excited. He's playing basketball again. He's going to get this opportunity to come back and prove everybody's wrong. He's going to be great on this Memphis team going forward. And then he's done. And then they lose another. And now they lose Jaren Jackson Jr. And Jaren Jackson Jr., who hit a amazing three at the almost end of the game in the second to final game he played, where it was literally like a heave from the 3-point line, like falling out of bounds kind of thing.
That was the one in the corner, right? That was the game we were watching, weren't we? Okay.
It was an insane shot, and he just knocked it down. He's so good at basketball, but this is so frustrating to see for the Grizzlies because, again, another young player injured, and now this is like a level of desperation as far as they're concerned. No Tyus Jones, no Jaren Jackson Jr., no Justice Winslow. They're playing with a hurt roster. They're relying so heavily on like role players like Grayson Allen, Brandon Clark to take much larger roles on this team, and it looks inevitable that they're not going to make the playoffs now. It looks like they're going to fall out of that 8th seed.
And it's interesting you say that because I want to pivot here from the Jaren Jackson injury into our first NBA topic of the day. Well, second NBA topic, but first one from yesterday's games. I wanted to focus in on the Blazers today. And the reason being is if we look at the standings coming into today, the Blazers are in front of the Spurs by half a game. Right now, I believe the Spurs are losing. Yeah, they're losing 117 to 111 with 2.5 to go as we are recording the show. They're losing to the Denver Nuggets. So if the Spurs end up losing to the Nuggets, that means the Blazers will be a full game ahead of the San Antonio Spurs. Yeah. And because Memphis lost today, they're only a game behind the Memphis Grizzlies. And I do believe that the Blazers and the Grizzlies play each other before the season ends. But yesterday we saw the Blazers play. Carmelo Anthony, fucking ridiculous in that game. And Dame even went the next level to basically say that the Melo vintage effort is that he's a Hall of Famer. And the question that I want to ask you is not if he's a Hall of Famer, because I feel like that's a easy question to answer.
Yeah, Hoodie Melo is a Hall of Famer. The Olympic work is on his own. That's worth it. Yeah.
The thing I want to ask you, though, is if the Blazers are the team to overcome the Grizzlies and get the 8th seed, is Melo the key to a deep playoff run for the Blazers? Because they're a team that showed they can do it. They went to the Western Conference Finals last year. They have Dame. They have a healthy Nurkic now. If we can get this Melo every single game or most games, could the Blazers be a team that makes a deep run with Hoodie Melo being one of the good role players?
Look, man, I'm not saying Melo didn't contribute a lot to them winning, but giving him more credit than other players, I don't know about that. I think you got to start with coaching credit because there was a wonderful breakdown on Reddit today of the defense they played against the Rockets and specifically James Harden. And basically they were doubling Harden so early in the possession and then playing a loose zone on the back half. So it's basically just allow Harden to pass off to somebody else, and then they have to rely on either like Russ driving and kicking or I think Austin Rivers driving and kicking in order for them to maybe get a eventual like third pass into a decent look on a three. Yeah. And the Rockets weren't hitting their threes, which meant the Portland Trail Blazers had a very good game. But in all honesty, on the court credit, how are you not talking about Gary Trent Jr.? This boy is bona fide.
I mean, we talked about him on Monday, too, because of his weekend performance.
I know. And all he's done is continue to kill it. Gary Trent Jr., like, I think one of the coolest things from this bubble is the opportunities that some of these guys are getting. And Gary Trent is someone who, throughout the whole year, quietly contributing well to this Blazers team. He's kind of been playing their wing. He's basically like Wes was a couple years ago for them. Yeah. But honestly, like he's knocking down shots. He's playing good defense. He's heads up player. He's smart. I really, really think that them adding that bench depth has been the biggest thing. They can go big with Zach Collins, Carmelo Anthony, and Nurkic on the court at the same time, or they can knock it down a block and go a little smaller with Gary Trent out there. And you have Melo at the 4, and then either Collins, Nurkic, Whiteside at the 5. Like, they have some different options now, which is really good for them. So, honestly, as much credit as you want to give to Skinny Melo for having a good performance, I still look at the other players in this team that make the team go.
Well, and this is the thing where I agree with you where all the credit shouldn't be given to Melo, but like I look at just the points from yesterday.
Sure.
If I feel like if this Blazers team can fit a mold that they had yesterday against the Rockets, they could be a dangerous team. If you've got Dame and CJ over 20, if you've got Nurkic right there with like the 17 to 18, and then you have Trent Jr.
He almost went for a
Melo.
20 and 20 game.
He was what, off?
He was 18 and 19.
Yeah, he was
with 3 blocks, 3 assists, and a steal. Like Nurkic, can we just give some credit to that man for coming off his injury, time off, comes back, and is nothing but excellent since he's gotten back. Honestly, Zach Collins is the only one who like he's where I remember he was. Everybody else seems to have gotten better. Yeah. Zach Collins is still the same player he was. But
I look at this team, and I'm gonna say something that might be blasphemous here, Dave.
I don't think it is. I know where you're going with this.
Do you know? I think you do because I said it in Discord numerous times.
I think that the Series 1-8 is going to be real interesting.
Oh yeah, if the Blazers make the 8th seed, I'm calling it now. They beat the Lakers in 7. They beat the Lakers in 7. Dame with the game winner in Game 7. Well, here's how it's going to go down. So Game 1, the Lakers will win. Then Game 2, the Blazers will win. Basically, we're trading off the rest of the way. So we'll do Laker-Blazers, Laker-Blazers. So it's a 2-2 series after that. Game 5, Lakers will win because AD and LeBron will be too much for them in that one. And plus LeBron will be like, I want to put my stamp on this and get this over sooner. Game 6 rolls around.
Yep.
Melo with the game winner to seal that game. Game 7, Dame with the game winner to seal the series. Dang. They go on to round 2.
That'd be hell of a storyline you're writing there.
I feel like this team, maybe it doesn't come down exactly like I said it, but like I watch this team and I'm thinking, that's the one I want to see go against the Lakers because I feel like if Memphis, now with the Jaren Jackson injury for sure, if Memphis goes up against the Lakers, they're going to get swept. And the Spurs, I want to say the same thing, but maybe the Spurs squeak out a game because in the bubble, they've kind of seemed like the definition of a scrappy team to me, where they are like the game against the 76ers, they had no business even being in that game. And I feel like a team like the Lakers wouldn't let them into a game like that, especially with like, I mentioned LeBron and AD, but like Kuz is playing really well. The legend Alex Caruso is playing very well as well. That I feel like out of all the teams that could be the 8th seed, the Blazers would not only be the team to give us the best first round series with the Lakers, but they could be the one to top the Lakers and shock the world.
I mean, I'm with you as far as the fact that out of the teams that aren't in the playoffs right now, the Blazers are by far the best team. It'll just be interesting to see how everything breaks down. And if we do get that matchup, I can't wait because it's just, you got the wing god basically in, LeBron James and Anthony Davis versus point guard and shooting guard tandem, CJ Dame. Like, that's going to be fun to see. Is Nurkic going to run a foul? Well, Zach Collins is going to foul out in 4 of those games. I'll tell you that. Like he's using his fouls. Yeah. Whiteside, if he ever friggin' pays attention to the game, like if he gets his hustle back, then we're going to see some issues there. Like LeBron and AD are going to be at the line 15 times a night easy. But it's just, can they slow down Dame and CJ without having point guards? You heard the story about Rondo potentially coming back to the bubble.
Yep.
So that could be huge for the Lakers, even though a lot of Lakers fans still say that Rondo hurts the team more than he helps them. I think at the end of the day, playoff Rondo might be able to do it one more time, one magic more time.
Playoff Rondo would have had us beat the, what was that, the Celtics?
We would have 8-1 upset the Celtics easy.
We would have swept him no problem if he doesn't hurt his hand.
It's a joke. But no, because it would be crazy. It would be crazy. But I think the Blazers are definitely now become, especially with this Jaren Jackson Jr. injury, and now become the team that a lot of people are rooting for to make it in the playoffs because they agree with you in the fact that even if they're not going to win that series, it will be a hell of a series.
The last question I'll ask you before we move on to the next team is, do you think the Blazers get in by, well, they can't be the sole the sole, like, we're getting a play-in tournament game, I think.
Regardless
the question I'll ask you is, will the Blazers only have to win one game or two games? Will they be the 8th or the 9th team in that play-in tournament?
The Grizzlies have the hardest schedule to go.
Mm-hmm.
And the Pelicans have the easiest. The Blazers are in the middle. I think the Blazers will probably have to play in. Yeah. I think it'll be how many games are left?
So right now there are, for the Blazers, because they played yesterday.
Yep.
The Blazers have 5 games left.
5 games left. Okay.
Yeah. So, and how the standings are is Memphis is 8. A game behind them is the Trailblazers. Mm-hmm. A half game behind that is the Spurs. And a half game behind that is the Pelicans. And a half game behind that is the Suns.
Give me the Blazers' last 5 games.
The Blazers' last 5, as I just fucking closed it.
Sorry.
I know the Nuggets are their next one. They play the Nuggets next, who are winning right now. They play the Clippers on Saturday, TNT game. Then on Sunday, back-to-backer, they play the Philadelphia 76ers. Then on Tuesday, Thursday, they play Dallas and Brooklyn. Yeah.
I got the Blazers as the 8th seed then.
Mm-hmm.
That finishing, you got the last 2 games, Dallas, Brooklyn. Those are both very winnable games. No offense to Luka, but man, they just suck in the fourth quarter. And Dame is just killer clutch. So, I think the Blazers will go in as the 8th seed and be able to win one game and get their spot secured and go up against the number 1 seed.
Yeah.
So, I think we're set up for some awesome playoffs. Do I feel bad for this Grizzlies team? Yes. Mm-hmm. But it feels very reminiscent of the Nuggets a couple of years ago, where it's just like they're on the outside looking in. They're such a young, fun
And then the
team.
next year they were a playoff team.
And I think that's exactly what will happen. The problem is that because of the season timing, Jaren Jackson Jr. probably won't play at all next year either. Mm-hmm. If they're going to start the season, in the winter this year, it's very unlikely that they're going to get Jaren Jackson Jr. back. Mm-hmm. So very disappointing. They'll be like, basically he misses a postseason and an entire season kind of a setup, instead of just, if this had happened in April, he would be back and able to play partially next season.
I'm going to say this, though, before we move on into the Clippers, who we're going to talk about next, is I think that the Blazers will be the 8th seed, like you said, but they won't be playing the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies, like we said, their schedule is rough the rest of the way.
They're falling off. I totally get it.
They've got Oklahoma City, Toronto, Boston, Milwaukee. Without Jaren Jackson Jr., I think they're dead in the water.
Ja's dropping 20 and 10, and he still can't,
Spurs have 4 left. They have Utah twice. Bookended with Utah at the beginning and end, with New Orleans and Houston in the middle.
Spurs are legit. They're legitimate.
That New Orleans game is going to be a key one for them. The Jazz ones could be tough. I think, though, that the NBA gets their gift. They get a thrilling first-round series because the Blazers will be in it, and Zion gets to play in a play-in tournament game, because the Pelicans, the rest of the way, Sacramento hasn't really looked good. And the only reason I think they look good, horrible. Like, yesterday they were in the game, but let's be honest, Dallas as a team has not been playing their best basketball in the bubble.
Dallas does not close out. That's what happens.
Washington, who should be an easy game for the Pelicans. That Spurs game will be a good one. And then
the Wizards are playing everybody close. Yeah. They're not winning, they're playing everybody close.
And then the Kings again, and then the Magic again. So, the Pelicans have a very winnable schedule the rest of the way, to where I feel like it'll be Blazers, Pelicans in a play-in tournament. Mm-hmm. The Blazers get the win and move on into the actual playoffs.
So but dropping the chance for the Suns maybe getting to that 9th spot. Would love to see that. We talked about Dev Book earlier today. That Suns team, when healthy, has one of the best on-off numbers as far as a 5. The problem is they just didn't get the chance to do that this year because of obviously the diuretics that DeAndre Ayton was caught taking, a couple of injuries stringed together. So their starting 5's legit. And
Next team, though, we're talking about is the Clippers. They are well in the playoffs, but their win, so they haven't played bad, but their win-loss record hasn't been what they wanted. Game 1, they played a great game against the Lakers. They lost that game on a LeBron buzzer beater, and the talk after was, holy shit, if Kawhi and PG play like this in the playoffs, they're going to be a scary team. I've never seen that about a team that loses, though, to LeBron. We're talking more about the team that lost than LeBron James being LeBron James.
The team that lost was missing the sixth man of the year and the runner-up to sixth man of the year.
Good point.
It's a slight difference. When they are fully together.
Very good points, as Lou will.
That's just 30 points that they don't have coming from highly efficient scorers who play up-tempo, which means better rest for your guys. Yeah. They're a different team.
The Pelican game they dominated, and then they only lost to the Suns because, as even Pat Bev said, or was it Lou Will? Someone said that our late game decisions could have been better. The tip out to
obviously
Dev
Devour fucked that up, but it wasn't just that cost them the game. Yeah, you can't look at one play and be like, well, that was it right there.
But when you lose, you're gonna microcosm a little bit and be like, oh, I could have done this different.
It's understandable. But no, I mean they had a lot of mistakes, and obviously Paul George did not shoot well that game. But yeah, so what was the question? I'm sorry.
Basically,
Clippers
good. So the one I asked is can they right the ship, because technically they're getting more losses than wins. But I'm going to change it. I'm going to change it to, how do you see the rest of the bubble going for the Clippers before the playoffs? They've got Dallas, Portland, Brooklyn, Denver, and then they end things against the Thunder on August 14th. How do you see the rest of their games going before they get into playoff basketball?
I think they can go 3-2 and be fine. I don't think they're in a situation where they feel pressure to win out or anything like that. They're going to be competitive in any given game, but really it's just about making it healthy to the playoffs. I think that's their number one concern. Obviously, getting Lou Will back would be a huge help. Trez is in a situation where I believe his grandmother passed away, and he's been away from the team, not really in a great place. So I don't know. I haven't seen anything on him in about 2 or 3 days. So I don't know if he's been heading back yet, or if he's still with his family at this time. So I don't know how quickly he'll be able to help them out if he returns in time. I can look that up in a minute here when I toss it back to you, but it's one of those situations where basically as long as they're healthy going into the playoffs, these next 5 games don't matter. They're all tune-up games. Don't stress Kawhi too much. Keep his quad healthy. Keep his quad happy. Let Paul George dial in where his shots need to be at. We've seen that playoff P come at us, but then we also see where it's the last couple minutes, Paul George can't sink a shot to save his life. So it's just they need to keep playing safe basketball. Don't do anything risky. Don't overstress your guys. You don't need to force anything. You guys are safe, Yeah.
And I mean, health is another thing. Lou Will, obviously, against the Suns, not Lou Will, Pat Bev against the Suns, only played 8 minutes as he exited with a sore left calf. I think that exactly what it says here in the ESPN article I'm looking at, where they say the team is going to be cautious. I feel like he might be on the Kawhi Leonard load management kind of system, where it's hey, because what you said is they need to win some games, because obviously they're if they want to keep the second seed, they're only a game above the Denver Nuggets. But I'm going to be completely honest, they're the LA Clippers. They probably have the confidence of, we have Kawhi fucking Leonard and PG-13. We can beat anybody that you put in our face. So I don't think
there's no home court advantage.
Yeah. I don't think they're too worried about being the second or the third. They're not chasing the 1 seed anymore. However, I will say, basketball fan being a little greedy here, I want them to keep the 2 seed, because I want to see the Clippers and the Mavericks. Luka go up against that Clippers team would be insane. Even though, as you said, the Mavericks having trouble closing opponents out, which would be a problem.
Got stifled by them last time.
So maybe not a great series, but I just want to see it for the name recognition
fair.
Alone. But they've got, like I said, the Nuggets are a game behind them. The Jazz are 2.5 behind them. So who knows? Maybe the Jazz catch up some
stringing
ground.
Together vintage Mike Conley performances. Who knows?
I feel like the Clippers are going to be very cautious the rest of the way, where it's like you said, tune-up basketball. They're not going to go out there and try to blow people out. and just see what performances they get. Even like looking at the Suns game, if I can pull up the box score again, like the two guys that you mentioned in Pat Bev and Lou Will, you didn't mention them by name, but you mentioned what kind of players they were. Pat Bev injury, I mentioned that. Lou Will didn't necessarily play that well against the Suns. Only 7 points. He was a negative 14 on the floor. But like you said, his first game back. And when ESPN talked to him, he even mentioned they were talking about the Magic City angle. And he even mentioned that had overshadowed the real life instances. Maybe what you were talking about, where he mentions here that it, said he was grieving the loss of a mentor for weeks, but that was overshadowed by his decision to stop to eat at a gentleman's club after attending a viewing. So
Lou Will was that, but also Montrezl Harrell, his grandmother.
Oh, okay. So both dealing with the loss of someone close to them, to where the good thing for the Clippers is they've got time. It's only we're recording this on the 5th. They've got if my math is right, 9 more days until the season ends, and then play-in tournament playoffs after that. I think the Clippers are going to be fine.
It is not time to panic. Although I do not want to see them do what the Bucks did yesterday. Can I just take a quick minute of time to be like,
take the podium is yours.
Did you guys really just lose to the Nets? The G League Nets? Like, TLC looks like a fucking all-star against you. What is going on? I understand that this was a game where you were like, hey, it should be easy. They're sitting everybody. They got nobody playing this game. It doesn't even matter. You played your starters for the first half of the game. Guess what? They weren't doing it. They weren't doing it. You didn't win the game. You didn't even try to win the game at the end. You
play to win the game.
I disbelief. It was like, are you literally letting them beat you? Are you letting the Nets beat you? Is this some like 3D mindfuck game where you're like, but if we let you win, the Wizards don't get to jump you for the playoff spot, so that way you lose your draft pick.
Yeah.
Like, is that what's going on? Is Coach Bud playing some 3D chess?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that game, you can't give away a game harder than they did to the Nets.
Yeah, it's the Bucks, I will say, worry me, and hey, maybe we talk about them in the future after one of their games. But two quick things before we get into the last main topic for the show is 2 small things. Number one, gotta give some NHL love. We're doing different things, Dave. First WNBA topic. That one was, like I said, first WNBA topic. Yay! What we're talking about. Boo. But for hockey, yay! First hockey topic. What we're talking about? Oh, even better. The Kraken have devoured the Knights expansion launch. The Kraken are the NHL's best-selling expansion identity ever, with sales 4 times the previous record set by the Vegas Golden Knights, according to Fanatics.com, if I could fucking read right. Let's see. Do they have the statistics here? That's a callback. That's a callback to Brandon and I. But the team says there were 20 million visits to its website in the first 24 hours and saw a 157% increase in social media following in that span. This is great for Seattle. The Kraken you will see me wearing a Kraken shirt at some point on the show, because I feel like, although I'm a Blackhawks fan, I'm not like a diehard Blackhawks fan.
Only for those 4 years.
Like, I still watch. I still keep up on the scores and hope that the Blackhawks win.
The bandwagon in Chicago was insane.
It was insane.
It put shame on the Cubs bandwagon. That's how good that was.
I don't know, man. That fucking parade for the Cubs was huge.
Oh, I get it. First time 100+ years. Yeah. But I just mean how quickly the entire city morphed into
we're a hockey town again
for 5 years.
We're a hockey town again. We love hockey. I'm gonna say it. All the basic girls here in Chicago. That it's like,
yes,
you don't even like sports. You never like sports. Why?
Okay.
We get that about the Cubs too with Chris Bryant and Anthony Rizzo. Pat can tell you about that. Yeah. We've had conversations there. But I want to kind of flip this into the how great is this for Seattle? And does this mean we're going to get a basketball team back in Seattle because they actually care
Even
about
when we're talking
sports?
NHL?
Yeah, I mean,
we're talking NBA.
It's great for hockey. It's great for the Kraken. I'm probably going to be a Kraken fan this year just because I love the fucking name.
That's like, cool. Okay. What is this? A great name. The logo is good. I think it could be better.
They're trying to go with a modern thing. I get what they're saying. Like
the hook is cool.
They'll be alt
I'm cool with the hook. Like that. Okay. That looks cool as shit. Or the anchor, I should say, not the hook. Jesus. But yeah, no. Am I surprised it outsold Vegas? Not really, because Vegas isn't really like they don't have a community. Like Vegas is its own weird existence in a bottle. Like that city runs itself and just people swarm there. It's not like they are like the city of Seattle, where like that is a city that has been craving professional sports coming back. The way they embrace the Seahawks is amazing. They have the 12th man. That city is awesome for their soccer club, which is one of the best in the MLS. Like they have such a great sports fan town, and the fact that they, were robbed of the Seattle Supersonics, and we are hoping they come back. I hope this is a sign to one of the best commissioner. I'm going to say to the best commissioner that a smart business move would be to capitalize on this and move forward with adding a team to the NBA in Seattle, bringing back the Supersonics. This city loves sports. There's nothing to miss here. It was a mistake to move the team out of the town. Give them their team back, please.
Yeah, I can't wait. I think we're going to get more teams in Seattle. I will say this. I don't think it's just the NBA. I think like when we did the full count with Brandon and I had to think about the podcast name for a second. Sam came on and we were talking MLB expansion, and whether it's Portland or Seattle, I'm sticking with Seattle. That could be an expansion team for the MLB as well. MLB could be, or no, it was Portland because they got the Mariners. I completely forgot they existed. But
I didn't talk about the Mariners because Mariners kind of suck right now. But
yeah, that was on me. I'm dumb. Then it was Portland that we were talking about. But like that whole Northwest, I feel like is an untapped resource for sports. And the Supersonics, I feel like we're gonna get kind of like we saw. What was it? The Hornets, where the Pelicans were the Hornets, but then the Bobcats wanted their name, like Charlotte wanted their name back, so now they're the Charlotte Hornets again. I feel like we will get that same thing, but it will be an expansion team that is just we're the Supersonics again.
I think the hype levels will be off the charts. I think
it will.
The NBA sales for the Supersonics coming back will knock the shit out of the NHL ones.
Yeah.
Like getting something new for the first time is amazing.
The Sonics were actually good.
Getting it back is going to be amazing.
Like that's the thing where it's like, yes, the Supersonics were not good towards the end, but like when we were kids in the 90s, when they had George Karl as their coach and fucking the Glove Gary Payton and Sean Kemp, and
Sean Kemp before he discovered hamburgers.
My fucking favorite player name from the 90s, Detlef Shrimp. Fucking that team, even before they went to the finals in 96, like they were a good team in the Western Conference. They need their team back. Sorry, Seattle. I forgot about the Mariners because they're not really that good. The Mariners.
Sam dropping, Silicon Forest over in Oregon, like Oregon football. I mean, shit. That they were basically a pro team for a couple of years with the amount of love that they got. They were insane.
All the Nike jerseys.
You're right.
The other mini story I want to mention before we go to the college baseball really quick is Shohei Ohtani. Joe Maddon says he's unlikely to pitch again in 2020, and this is what I want to do with it. So ESPN says this is coming from Aiden Gonzalez. I almost said Adrian, but I'm like, there's no R there. Aiden Gonzalez says Los Angeles Angels manager Joe Maddon doesn't expect Shohei Ohtani to pitch again this season, but he said he doesn't consider Ohtani's latest setbacks to be an indication that he can't continue to be a two-way player. Do you agree with that? Will there be a time where Shohei has to pick batting or pitching, or will these injuries with his arm force him to be a hitter only?
I want him to do both.
I do too.
I really
it's so cool. It's so unique.
It's one of those situations where he needs the opportunity to do both. And I think that was why he went, the Angels were at the perfect fit, because they're like, we'll let him do it. But then obviously injury, if I think he gets another shot. I think if he doesn't pitch this year, I think he'll get one more shot next year. But if you see another shoulder, arm, rotator cuff, anything along those lines, that's probably going to be it. And it's sad because it's like he's so young. He's still just like 26. Somewhat, yeah. I think he's 26. Like he's so young. He's so good at baseball, and it's just the idea of him being a true two-way star. That was the dream. Him coming over here, that was the dream.
He just turned 26 in July.
Nice.
So he just turned 26. You're right.
Nice.
But yeah,
I was like, how long is it? I was going back in my head. I was like, how long have they had him? He came over when he was this old. Okay. A little quick mental math.
They've had him now for this third year with the club. I mean, I was bummed when you and I went to Anaheim last year. He was injured, so we didn't get to see him pitch. We got to see Mike Trout, which was, I say it to this day, a weird experience that I've never been in a stadium where, even when I'm at Comiskey or Wrigley, I've never seen it to where it's like, this player is up, I can't move. Like the stadium, when Mike Trout comes up, the stadium just stops. Like everyone stops what they're doing. The guy behind us was like, I want to go get a hot dog. And his wife's like, well, why don't you go get one? He goes, Mike Trout's on deck. I can't. It's like, I've never heard that conversation happen because of what he can do when he's at the plate. The
best, again, Mike Trout being the best player in baseball. I mean, it's just, he's literally potentially all-time set up to be one of the best players in all of baseball. So it's insane what he is. And you're right. That game was awesome. The sunburn after the game was not.
Yeah. All the fucking
I almost bought an Ohtani jersey that day.
The aloe that we had to put on. You didn't though, right?
No, I was like this close to buying a red Ohtani jersey though.
I'm like, I don't remember you buying a jersey. I think I tried talking you. I think I tried talking you into a jersey because they were cheaper.
Yeah. But like that red Ohtani,
it's baller. The last thing I want to talk about, we're going to be a little long today. Sorry, Soaps. We'll get Games Live in right after. We got a jam-packed Games Live after Sports Live. But we're going to college football, ending the show with some coronavirus college football topics, the ones you guys love.
I'll be quick.
The first one is Colorado State is investigating alleged negligence of coronavirus protocols. This is from Myron Medcalf at ESPN. Says that coaches, players, and sports medicine staff at Colorado State University told ESPN that its athletic department leaders are discouraging athletes from being tested for COVID-19, are failing to provide accurate information on local and state health officials, and are ignoring guidelines to quarantine athletes who might have been exposed. Football players have also been told their playing time could be affected by a positive test and an extensive absence due to COVID-19, according to multiple sources. So their president, the Colorado State president, is going to look into this, and people are probably going to get fired or should be fired for this. But this also comes on the heels of the Pac-12 has formed a unity group of players. We just haven't talked about it yet. The Big Ten is now following suit, where they have players that have joined together that are like, we want these are what we demand. If we don't get this in our safety, we're not playing. And for the Big Ten players list, they demands include several of the same issues regarding coronavirus testing, contact tracing, and social distancing that a group of Pac-12 players made in another letter published by the Players Tribune on Sunday. Dave, this goes back to the discussion we've had this week already, but with Colorado State and what we're seeing, should this tell the NCAA, kind of like the parent kid of like, well, okay, although it's not all of our kids, we can't trust some of our kids. So we need to think about what we want to do with this season.
Look, if Colorado State is doing this, what do you think schools that actually give a shit about football are doing?
Alabama?
Their livelihood depends on the football money.
SEC?
There is no way SEC schools are following parameters around testing and safety. There's zero chance that they are doing daily testing and making sure their player it's not possible. It's not possible. If this is the problem at the bottom, imagine what's going on at the top. Like, it's kind of like the jokes you make like 10 years ago about recruiting. It's like, oh, that player got played to go to that college. Like,
yeah,
that's weird. Like, wouldn't you think it would be a bigger school? Like, no, they're just the ones who got caught. Yeah. If they're doing this and getting like 4-star recruits, what do you think is happening at the top of the stack? You know. So, am I concerned for football? Yeah, I can't see how it finishes this year. I'm going to be surprised when it starts, but I understand that it's a business and they want to make their money, so they will choose to ignore any health risks to the students who are working for free. So, my surprise? No. Do I expect it to happen at other schools? Absolutely. Do I think the students will actually stand up and put together those groups to say, hey, if you don't do this, we'll walk? I think it will build quickly. I really do. I think that the student movements will happen quickly. I think it's just a matter of like, can they get the full conference in on it together to agree on it, kind of a thing.
I think it's good that we're seeing these player union groups, because absolutely. If you're going to go as an individual, the school's not going to listen to you as much as like if you're a group of players saying, no, we're not going to play if this isn't met. And it did make me scared because I had the same thought you did. They're not the only ones doing it.
Yep.
Like, there's got to be, like, I made the kid analogy of, like, there probably are schools out there that are following everything you have to. But then there might be some of the kids, some of the schools that aren't doing it. And those kids
even
that are...
it's just them turning a blind eye. Like, that's still contributing to the problem.
The thing that I didn't like is I'm going to punish you if you get COVID. Or I'm going to punish you if you... like social distance or that. And then the other step that we saw on the other side is UConn became the first FBS team, the first D1 FBS team to cancel its football season this year. So we officially have like D3 today, they canceled their championships. Yep. The FBS UConn canceled their season. I have not seen in the article anything about, we're going to play in the spring. I think because the NCAA hasn't said anything about that, they're just canceled it, which affects like Illinois' schedule because Illinois was supposed to play UConn, but Illinois' schedule is all fucked up now because the other two things is the Big Ten, they set a 10-game conference slate that starts on September 3rd. And the AAC, the American Athletic Conference, one of the smaller guys, approved a 8+4 schedule for 2020. Thing I just wanted to ask you is, UConn becomes the first. Is this going to be a trickle down, or are we going to see more leagues do what the Big Ten and the AAC and the Big 12 have come, where it's like, hey, this is our schedule for this year?
I have to imagine as students have returned to campus and players are in more contact with everyone on the campus, that more schools will have to pull out of organized sports in the NCAA, whether it's, I know that football is the only active one that hasn't been postponed or canceled. But there's no way that this will continue on the path that the NCAA thinks it will, as far as we will go off without a hitch and play football and you'll have your Saturdays back. And no,
Saturdays are for the boys,
mind.
They say.
You're out of your damn mind. This is they're the first of what will be many schools that will announce the end of their season.
Yeah, I'm interested to see if any of the big boys cancel theirs.
If you see an SEC school or a 12 school,
like but like if Missouri or Arkansas cancels their season, no one's gonna fucking bat an eye to that. But like if it's I'm going to even say like a Kentucky, like even like Kentucky's not the Alabamas of the world, but like they're good. They're in the hunt in their division for their conference title. Yeah. I wonder how many teams are going to cancel, and I wonder when we're going to get an official answer from the NCAA, because it's kind of been like, hey, conferences, you settle it yourselves, and then we're not given any direction here, which is kind of a crying shame. But that is going to do it for MVP Sports live sports talk show here on MVP. I almost said NTV, and I'm like, no, we are not MTV in any capacity. We don't even play music videos, but I guess they don't anymore either. Remember, the show is on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, you can also watch it live on Twitch Monday through Friday, twitch.tv/MVP vids at 4:30 Central Time. These will eventually be on podcast services, and then patreon.com/MVP vids. If you also want to be a part of the show, you can do that by joining the silver or above tier. But that is going to do it. I'm going to end the show quickly. It's been great to have our third installment. Dave, we can't wait to finish out the week with Thursday and Friday. I think tomorrow we get the deadline for NFL players who have opted out. So we're going to be talking about that as well.
Deadline for the draft for NBA, and that'll be a topic we'll be hitting soon as well.
That's right. That was this week as well.
Monday, I think.
Yeah. So we'll have that as well Thursday, Friday, but it's going to be a jam-packed week. Stay tuned though. We're going to take a short break, and then Soapy and myself will be back for MVP Games Live, the live gaming show, a part of MVP Entertainment. So it's going to do it for MVP Sports Live. And as always, have a good day, everybody.